Hello and welcome back to Trust Me, I'm a Philosopher. And today we're back in the occasional series where I talk a little bit about my experience of writing books, putting together longer form pieces of research, with the hope of extracting some bits of tips, advice, guidance for you to have a go for yourself to see whether those can help scaffold you in producing the longer form projects that you want to. I've got 6 tips that I've been thinking about, and what I'm doing here is I'm following up on an earlier video where I talked about tips for writing success. But someone noted in a comment on a social media platform that writing is one part of the story, but what about the editing side of the piece? You've got some words down on paper, but then how do you edit successfully on from there? I've done more than my fair share of that, so what can I advise you to do? Here we go, 6 tips. First tip is to leave it once you've written it. Provide yourself a gap between the actual writing phase and the editing phase. And I think this is incredibly important for one, I guess, kind of obvious reason. When you're going through that process of editing, what you're trying to do is to make sure that the prose makes sense, that it says what you want it to say, that it's structured in a way that you want it to be. And if you've just finished writing it, then, well, of course it's going to be in the form that you think it should be. You've just written it that way. You wouldn't have written it that way if you didn't think it should be that way. So leave it. Because when you come back to it in a few days' time, or given as much time as you can given the scope of the project, you won't be in the mindset of writing. You'll be coming back to it a little bit cold, or in other words, a little bit like your audience will be. Because they don't know what it is that you want to say already. They're going to have to learn that from reading through your prose. So when you finish writing, stop, close the document, save it, and then leave it and come back to it. And if you're trying to schedule a writing project, so you know that you've got an essay or you've got a paper that's due by a particular deadline, always try and factor in enough time for you to do the writing and then to come back and do the editing with a bit of a gap. The second tip that I wanted to advise people to take advantage of is to ask yourself, I guess, 2 questions when you're reading back over that work, having left it for a bit. So first is, what does this sentence on the page actually say? What have I said? And is that actually then the thing that I mean it to say? Have I actually conveyed to the reader what I'm trying to? And again, super easy to get that wrong. The English language, or any language that you could be working in, incredibly nuanced. It's really easy to not quite nail down exactly what it is you're after, to say something that's sort of related but isn't quite precise. So ask yourself, what does this mean? What am I trying to get over? And then does it actually say what I want it to? Tip 3, slightly different but related, and involves asking yourself questions again. First question, what do I need the reader to take from this? So I've written some sentences down. What am I trying to get them to do with it? What nugget of information am I trying to get across to them? What am I trying to persuade them to do or to believe, and so on? And then, is what I'm actually giving them that? So, for instance, if I was trying to convey to the reader some facts about the Battle of Hastings in 1066, am I actually writing in such a way as to enable them to understand that, to take those facts from it? If not, then change it. Tip 4, and this might be an anathema to those of you who are trying to pad out word counts. No comments to any students who might be listening to this. Am I using more words than I need to? If you are, tweak it. Find the more concise and precise way of saying it. Respect your reader. This is really where this comes from. When your reader sits down to read your prose, they are choosing to give their time to the reading of what you have written. And if you're taking some great, florid, long, exploratory, interesting, circuitous and varied route to getting to the point, you're not really respecting their time. And you're also actually making it much harder for you to be precise and concise because you're using many words, and when you start to introduce more variables, more words, you run the risk of making it harder to convey what you want to. So keep it short and keep it snappy and keep it focused. Tip 5, related, Read it out loud to yourself, whatever it is that you've written. And believe me when I say that this can be truly painful to do. The number of times I've read over a draft of something that I've written and then I've read it out and gone, oh no. It just sounds awful. And of course, what you're aiming for it to do is to not sound awful. And there are some little questions, ancillary questions that you can ask yourself in trying to work out what you might want it to do. Ask yourself, what's the rhythm? What's the meter? Am I giving variation in the sentence length such that this enables the reader to be drawn in? Or am I simply using exactly the same sentence length each time? Am I using the same sentence construction each and every time? Am I boring the reader by using the same construction each time? You get the idea. When we start to vary sentence length, when we start to repeat and vary things, then it starts to sound better and it's just a more pleasant reading experience. And I do think that a significant part of what we do when we edit should be to make the reading experience just so much better. When we're writing, we're often thinking about what we want to say. I think when we're editing, we need to be thinking much more about what the reader needs and how we can help them access the work. And related to that, the sixth and final tip, can you simplify what you've said? And in particular, in academic writing, particularly in writing about philosophy, which is my own area, the ideas are really hard. They're really complicated ideas. If I start digging into the metaphysics of time or the philosophy of trust in something that I'm writing, I'm going to ask the reader to draw some subtle and important distinctions. I'm going to try and convey some complex and difficult ideas. So can I find a way of simplifying my writing? And oftentimes that means actually using a shorter sentence construction. If you've got some great sprawling sentence that runs to a full paragraph, like 9-10 lines, honestly, the work you're making your reader do, too much. Make it more precise, make it more concise. So can you simplify it in terms of the construction? And then also, is there a more straightforward way, forgetting length, of just getting to the point that you want to make? Can you make it easy for the reader? If you can, then please try and make it easy for them. Now, I'm sure there are many other editing tips, and let me know in the comments what some of your preferred tips and suggestions are for editing your work. It'd be great to hear from you. And then this can be compiled into a big list so that passing viewers can pick up on all of your expertise as well. But my 6 tips, not intended to be exhaustive, just some of my favourites. Leave it in a drawer for a little bit. Very important to do. Ask, what does it mean? Reflect on whether or not you're actually saying that. Ask, what do I need the reader to take from it? Am I helping them to do that? Am I using more words than I need to? Hugely important. And then read it out loud. Oh, the painful experience. And then ask yourself, can I simplify it? Those are my 6 tips for the day. Hopefully those are all useful. And if you are interested in hearing more about the way that I approach writing and thinking through all of that kind of stuff, let me know. I started this channel to talk about the philosophy of trust, but if I can usefully and helpfully talk about academic writing, I am more than happy to do it. Until next time, stay suitably trusting.